2 Hollywood movies. Royal drama, historical inaccuracies, a British governess who may or may not have rewritten her own life story. The King and I and Anna and the King were straight up banned in Thailand. But why? Is it because of historical inaccuracy? Or was there something more scandalous at play? Welcome to Real Talk, where we spill the tea on movies, media, and all the madness in between, with wit, sass, and zero sugarcoating. The King and I, 1956, the classic musical starring Deborah Kerr and Yul Brynner. Anna and the King, 1999, the more serious drama version starring Jodie Foster and Chow Yun-fat. Both movies based on Margaret Landon's novel Anna and the King of Siam, 1944, which itself was inspired by Anna Leonowens' own memoirs, The English Governess at the Siamese Court, 1870, and Romance of the Harem, 1872, but with some serious, creative liberties. Fun fact, Thailand has banned every single adaptation of this story since the 1950s. Not just one, not just two, all of them. They even refused to allow filming on location. That's how much they were not having it. But why? Anna Leonowens, the prim, proper British governess who taught the children of King Mongkut of Siam. Sounds elegant, right? Well, turns out she had a little habit of tweaking reality to make herself sound more prestigious. According to Anna, she was born into an elite British family, educated in England, and had direct royal connections. Basically, she made herself sound like Victorian aristocracy. Reality check, total nonsense. Anna wasn't even born in England. She was born Anne Harriet Emma Edwards in India in 1831. Her father was a British soldier, not some high-ranking nobleman, and her mother, Mary Ann Glascott, was of mixed Indian and British ancestry, making Anna Anglo-Indian, which she conveniently erased from her biography. She wasn't raised in an English manner sipping tea with the Queen. She spent 21 years in India, right in the thick of British colonial rule, where Eastern and Western cultures clashed daily. And yet, when it came time to write her memoirs, she made it sound like she just tumbled out of a Jane Austen novel and into the exotic unknown. Why the dramatic rewrite? Well, let's talk about that Anglo-Indian heritage. A little British, a little Indian, but apparently too much Indian for Anna's liking. She erased that part of her past faster than a bad Tinder date. Anna didn't just rewrite history, she straight up rebranded herself. In her fantasy biography, she wasn't an Anglo-Indian woman born in colonial India. No, she was now the daughter of a high-ranking British officer, born in Wales, and raised in a world of European sophistication. Because apparently, being British wasn't enough. She had to be extra British. But let's be real. If she was truly some delicate, refined English lady, how did she survive 21 years in colonial India without clutching her pearls every 5 minutes? Then there's her marriage glow-up. She wed Thomas Leon Owens, a British army clerk, and they moved from India to Western Australia in 1852, where he was stationed. Not exactly the aristocratic lifestyle she later claimed. After struggling financially, they relocated to Singapore in 1859. Not long after, Thomas traveled to Penang, Malaysia, where he later died the same year. And this is where Anna's second reinvention began. She erased her Indian heritage, claimed she was born in Wales, and upgraded herself to an upper-class British woman. Oh, and she even modified her name from Leon Owens to Leonowens, because adding an extra syllable somehow made it sound fancier and more aristocratic. This reinvention helped her secure work as a teacher, which eventually led to her famous position in Siam. Margaret Landon read Anna's memoirs and spiced them up even more in her 1944 novel, Anna and the King of Siam. Hollywood then took that novel and cranked the drama dial to maximum exaggeration, turning it into The King and I, 1956, and Anna and the King, 1999. Every version of the story added more exaggeration, painting King Mongkut of Siam, now Thailand, as a barbaric tyrant, and Anna as the sole voice of reason, a textbook white savior fantasy. Both movies kick off with Anna arriving in Bangkok, impatient that she and her son Louis aren't immediately granted an audience with the king. Now, remember, this woman spent 21 years in India under British colonial rule. She had seen far stricter class and gender divisions than what she encountered in Siam. And yet, she's shocked? The way she painted herself as this fearless, outspoken woman challenging the King of Siam is beyond hilarious when you actually think about it. She was a widowed schoolteacher in a foreign land, completely dependent on the palace for her survival. Would she really have spoken to an absolute monarch who could have her removed or worse in an instant, like she was schooling a rowdy student? Absolutely not. If she really had the courage to talk back to a king like that, why didn't she try it with Queen Victoria? Because she knew better. She knew her place in British society. But in Siam, she saw an opportunity to rewrite her story and place herself at the center of an exotic, dramatic adventure. The way Anna writes about herself, you'd think she was some Victorian feminist rebel taking a stand against the barbaric East, when in reality, she was just a governess with zero power or influence. And let's be real, she wasn't even the only teacher in the royal court. King Mongkut had already invited Western teachers and missionaries to Siam as part of his modernization efforts. But, of course, Anna had to frame herself as the enlightened savior of the kingdom. And don't even get me started on her shock at polygamy in the Siamese court. Girl, you spent 21 years in British colonial India, where polygamy was not only common, but the status of women was far worse than in Siam. If anything, she should have been unfazed. So that whole culture shock excuse? Debunked. She had witnessed it herself for the first 21 years of her life. But in true Anna fashion, she conveniently forgot all that when it suited her narrative. One of the juiciest and most fabricated stories from Anna and Margaret's versions of events is the tragic tale of Tuptim. First things first, Tuptim was a common name in Siam, and during King Mongkut's reign, there were at least 4 women named Tuptim in the royal court. Not a single one suffered the fate that Anna or Margaret cooked up. In Anna's book, Tuptim was a concubine who fell in love with a monk, attempted to escape, and was brutally executed by King Mongkut as punishment. In The King and I, she was rewritten as a Burmese gift to the king. Yikes. And in Anna and the King, they went full-throttle Hollywood, upping the drama by having Tuptim burned alive in front of the palace. Because apparently, nothing screams historical accuracy like a public execution straight out of a medieval torture chamber. But let's fact-check that real quick. Anna claimed this execution happened during her time at court, 1862-1867. The problem? It contradicts King Mongkut's actual policies. He had already begun reforming Siam, including allowing concubines to leave the palace and marry if they wished. Yes, he had a harem. Many concubines were political gifts, which, let's be real, is still messed up. The idea that he would execute a woman for wanting to leave doesn't add up. And the burning alive? Even more ridiculous. By the time Anna arrived, Bangkok was already welcoming missionaries, diplomats, and foreign envoys. A public execution of that scale? It would have completely shattered King Mongkut's modernization efforts and would 100% have been documented by Western witnesses. Guess what? No such records exist, because it never happened. But Anna and the King didn't stop there. Oh no, they had to throw in a secret underground dungeon beneath the palace, filled with tortured prisoners. Sounds spooky and dramatic, except it was physically impossible. Bangkok was, and still is, built on a floodplain, full of canals and soft, waterlogged soil. The city was literally called the Venice of the East. Digging deep underground for a dungeon? Good luck keeping it from turning into an indoor swimming pool. The entire concept is pure Hollywood fantasy, not just historically false, but geographically impossible. And if that wasn't enough, Anna and the King turned up the action movie dial even further with a fictional rebel assassination plot. Because apparently, we needed to see Anna go full action hero mode and save King Mongkut's life. According to the film, Anna, being the ever-resourceful Western savior, uncovers a conspiracy, warns the king just in time, and plays a key role in preventing a coup. Yeah, except there was no record of any rebellion against King Mongkut during Anna's time at court. The king didn't need a British governess to protect him. He had an entire political system and military for that. And then we get the scene. Chow Yun-fat as King Mongkut going full James Bond, personally rigging a bridge with dynamite. Because apparently, being a scholar, a diplomat, and a polyglot wasn't enough. He also had to be an action hero. No wonder Thailand gave a big no to this movie. The whole subplot was pure Hollywood nonsense, created just to make Anna look like a savior in a place where she was, frankly, just a minor footnote. Oh, and that romantic ending in Anna and the King? Yeah, pure fiction. Fun to watch, sure, but historically accurate? Absolutely not. In The King and I, Anna also claimed she was by King Mongkut's side before his death. Wrong again. King Mongkut passed away on October 1st, 1868, months after she had already left Siam in 1867. So unless she had some supernatural ability to be in 2 places at once, that little detail didn't quite happen. Now let's be fair. Anna did include some truths in her writings. She and King Mongkut exchanged letters, some of which still exist today. They discussed education, language, and even slavery. King Mongkut was already working towards gradual abolition, and while Anna may have encouraged this, her version makes it sound like she was single-handedly responsible for reforming an entire nation. Spoiler alert, she wasn't. And yes, the king was deeply interested in Western science and knowledge, but Anna dramatically exaggerated her influence over him and the crown prince, future King Chulalongkorn. Now, in her defense, could this have been a language barrier issue? Maybe. She never fully learned Thai or the complex court language, so it's possible that some of her writing came from pure misinterpretation. But let's be honest, she also had a book to sell. Like the Tuptim story, did she actually witness anything? Probably not. But she heard something, decided to spice it up, and turned it into a tragic tale to make her book more sensational. Honestly, it's like she was writing fan fiction of her own life, where she's the brave British heroine civilizing the foreign king. Except, King Mongkut never needed her to educate him. The man was already fluent in multiple languages, well-versed in science, diplomacy, and Western customs. The idea that he was just waiting for a British governess to teach him how to be civilized? Delusional. And let's talk about her obsession with British superiority. If you read her memoirs, the colonial smugness practically jumps off the page. She writes herself as this defiant, enlightened woman standing up to the tyrannical King Mongkut, as if he were just sitting there waiting to be schooled on civilization. Like, sis, you were a struggling widow in a foreign land under an absolute monarchy. If you really spoke to the king the way you claim, you wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. At the end of the day, Anna Leonowens wasn't some naive, wide-eyed British lady encountering the East for the first time. She was a mixed-race woman who had spent her entire life in colonized Asia. Instead of embracing that, she whitewashed her past to fit into elite British society. If anything, she should have been one of the few Westerners who actually understood the complexities of class and gender in an Eastern monarchy. But no, she had to be the white savior, bravely challenging the barbaric customs of the East. And somehow, Hollywood ate it up. But let's be real, her story is probably 80% fantasy, 20% truth. She took real events, sprinkled in half-truths, and then embellished them so she could be the main character. In The King and I, King Mongkut is portrayed as a childish, temperamental, borderline barbaric ruler. Meanwhile, Anna and the King dials up the romantic drama. This time, the white woman rescues an exotic foreign culture. None of this is actual history. It's Western fantasy. And that's exactly why Thailand has banned every version of it. The country takes its royal history very seriously. And honestly, I don't blame them. This is Hollywood doing what Hollywood does best, rewriting history to make a Western character the hero in a non-Western setting. Despite the ban, Western audiences love these stories. The King and I became a Broadway hit and a Hollywood classic, because let's be honest, people love the costumes, the romance, and the exotic aesthetic. Anna and the King, visually stunning, the palace was actually filmed in Malaysia, and yeah, the cinematography is chef's kiss. But at the end of the day, if you don't mind historical inaccuracies and just want to enjoy the music, the costumes, and the drama, then sure, have fun with it. But if you're looking for the real history of King Mongkut and Siam, maybe skip Hollywood and pick up an actual history book instead. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more Real Talk.